Well, good day, everybody. This is our second attempt, I think it is, the third attempt at a live interview with one of our interesting entrants for the Ocean Globe Race coming up. And I'm just going to bring them straight up because we've got the whole family here at the moment. So let's just say a big g'day to Andy, Mia, and Axel. Andy and Mia, how are you? Yeah, you can hear us okay?
Yeah, he's quiet for the moment, so we'll see. He's got to run to a doctor's appointment soon, but I wanted Axel to make a little appearance here with the family.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure whether he'll be doing the race or not, but that'll come up in the conversation the next half hour or so. So that's really cool. And you're very much a sailing family. And just to give people a quick rundown, in fact, you can do it. Tell us quickly about your boats and what you do as a business and where you are.
Sure. Well, I have to say we are truly a sailing family now because being home in quarantine for the summer, Mia and I couldn't stand not being near our other boats for the business. So we just bought a little 34-footer in Sweden and actually just got back yesterday night from Axel's first sailing experience. So he's 3 months old and he's already been sailing. There you go. He's already been sailing for the last 5 days. So I got to start him early, just like I did when I was a kid.
It seemed like he liked it.
So 3 boats and a new baby and all the rest of it. The boats are a Swan 59 and a Swan not a Swan 48, and now you got this little ripper here. What a great looking boat!
So our new little family boat's a 1977 Norlin 34, designed and built in Sweden. Actually built for the Gotland Runt race. So really cool little family boat, and we'll sail it and race it here in the archipelago in Stockholm. But yeah, the other boats that we run our business with and we've done most of our sailing are back in Annapolis currently. And we're putting the 59 Ice Bear is going to be the OGR boat.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so you must fight over who's going to skip or what, because so Andy's company's 59 North. You've got the 2 boats. You're an entry in the SAYULA class of the Ocean Globe, which is full. And anyway, we can talk about the whole thing because I know, Mia, you've got to take off. But Mia, tell me how you met this guy. Yeah, before you leave. I know you can't stay long, but how did you meet him?
I met this guy down in New Zealand, of all places. I was from Sweden, you from America, and then we were in New Zealand. I was just there backpacking, and then
I'm not taking down to your mom.
That's when I went on my first ever sailing trip. So I never ever sailed before I met Andy, so he kind of introduced me to it.
Crikey, how long ago was that?
Yeah, so he and his buddies had chartered a little 28-footer in Marlborough Sound, and so he had invited me and my friend along, and that was my first sailing experience.
That's amazing. And now you're a full-blown offshore skipper and all the rest of it, and you run one of the boats and he runs the other, and sometimes you run them together.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, while Andy's not there, you're as excited as the OGR as I know Andy is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And we had a long, obviously it's going to affect the family a little bit. We had a long discussion about it together before we committed, and I think both of us were equally excited about the race.
Yeah, we don't know how it's going to go now. Axel's going to be 3 years old when we start the race.
Yeah.
So the thinking is now Mia and I, before we knew we were pregnant, I think, right? Yeah, before we knew we were going to have a kid, we made a deal. When we were about to commit to OGR, I said, look, I want to do this, but I don't want to do particularly the Cape Horn leg without Mia.
Yeah.
Like we've done everything together. That's just one of those, Mount Everest type things that we have to do together. So we sort of made an agreement, no matter what happens, assuming everybody's healthy, we're doing that leg together. And now the question is Axel going to go with us on that leg, or will he stay with the grandparents?
Well, there's no exclusions in the notice of race. It's just going to have to get a pretty cool safety harness life jacket and a few other issues. But that'd be pretty cool. I know exactly where you're coming from, though. That'll be a very special opportunity.
He'll be 3.5 when the race starts, I guess, and I'm fully planning. The best case scenario, I think, is that I skipper the race the whole way around the world, and Mia and Axel meet us in the stopovers, and then Mia jumps on for the Cape Horn leg, and then we do that. So, but we'll see, man. It's a long way off, but it's going to come quick.
Yeah.
Well, look,
Mia's gonna take off. She's gotta take Axel to the doctor.
Okay, good to meet you, Mia, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again and watch Axel grow up.
Absolutely.
Okay, this is just before we get into the in-depth reflection and investigation about yourself, Andy. I'm just going to drop another Axel on. We've got, and I don't know whether this is going to work because we've been working on the audio. This might be just a look, but here's another Axel coming in right now, and I'll check. G'day, Axel. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. He can hear us, but we can't hear him. Okay. So here's the deal. I'll explain it. Axel has got a really cool group called Arctic Stern, and is an entrant in the OGR. Okay, based up in Canada. Although I reckon he first time I saw a picture of Axel, he reminded me of a Spanish conquistador or something. You know, classic sailor look. And they're putting together a really exciting young team, and we will be talking in 1 month. Okay, and on September the 2nd, Axel will be the guest, and we're going to now open these lives up to monthly. It's interesting. We got sort of 24 entries or something in the OGR, but a lot of confidential, and we've been emailing them, and no one wants to. You know, we haven't got a lot. 26. So we're going to do it 1 month apart. So sorry you can't say anything for the moment, Axel, but we'll chat again. And kind of funny, we got two Axels on the air, eh? So we'll see between now and then. We'll sort the audio out. So thanks for coming up, Axel, and we'll see you soon. We'll chat next week or something and sort the audio. Thanks. See you later. Bye-bye. Okay, so isn't that funny? I had Jane mentioned today, so you're not going to believe this. We've got Axel and Axel, and I forgot.
Yeah, it's not that common of a name. That's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Where's that Axel? Which part of Canada are they from?
I'm not sure. Jane,
Cool. I'll be interested to talk to them too.
Which part of Canada is Axel from? I'll get her to do some research and tell me in a minute. Or she doesn't know either. Look on the entry form. Oh, I'm using Jane's computer. That's a problem. So we'll find out. We'll find out. But they got a cool team. On a couple of the posts, you can see they have a bit of fun. They're making some funny videos and bits and pieces and trying to get the team happening. So that's cool. All right. So Andy, we basically a lot of people, some of the people that watch this, not necessarily now, but replay, will know you already because you're all over the website. Because when we launched the race, I literally got online looking for pictures of north of Swan, and you're all over it, and you're doing all the things we wanted to, and we contacted it, and you just sort of went, wow, this is me. I'm going to, so.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was you contacted me for pictures, and I was like, yep, but I'm the first person to sign up to, so count me in on whatever you need.
So why? We'll go into your background in a minute, but why? What can you tell me? What inspired you for that?
Oh man, in a nutshell, I've just been inspired by all the classic sailors races, all this stuff. I love the connection to history, and I love just the lineage that we can tie from the old days to now, as far back as the sailing ship days and stuff. But I just love the whole Whitbread thing. It's always been a dream of mine, not to do it in a modern sense, but like when I followed the Golden Globe, and I just like the concept, and it fits perfectly. It's perfect timing. It's right in our wheelhouse from a business perspective. It's a personal challenge. It's a good sort of, we've added and built on our challenges over the years. We did Svalbard 2 years ago. That was a really big deal for me. And I've just constantly challenged myself throughout my whole life with different things. And this is just perfect timing. And there's no way that I could watch this happening and not be a part of it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So many things.
You're a heavy user of swans too. I mean, we didn't really plan it to be a swan rally or a swan race or regatta, but the SAYULA class is full of swans, which is amazing.
Yeah, but I mean there's a reason too. I mean, you look at boats that are. I talk about this all the time when people crew that sail with us. They want to know what kind of boat to get, and you look at what the boat was designed for, and these old swans were designed to sail quickly and safely across oceans with a fair amount of people on board. I mean, this is literally what they were meant to do. Maybe a little bit more luxurious than is necessary, but we have our boats fitted out as expedition boats, not as we're not your typical Swan owners in that sense. So it's perfect. And all this stuff we need, I'm sure we'll talk about this, but all the refit type stuff that you're advising for the race is stuff we do anyway for the types of trips we run. I mean, we're sailing 10,000 miles a year as it is now. So it's all in the same wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, there's something special about Swan cockpits, for instance. I've just got a shot up there now. They really are designed for the ocean, so I suppose it's natural. But at least we've got a few different types of boats in the adventure class. It's not all Swan. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, that's the essence of it. I mean, the voyages that you do are absolutely classic. So just tell me how you got into that business model. In fact, I'm going to go. Let's just scrap it and go right back to the beginning. What caused you to get into sailing and adopt this path up the road to where you are now?
Yeah, so my parents grew up. Well, I'm from Pennsylvania, middle of the countryside, landlocked. No ocean nearby. But my mom and dad started sailing when they were in their early 20s, and they did their honeymoon they chartered with a captain an out island 36, I think, a smaller out island from Fort Lauderdale, spent over in the Bahamas. My mom always used to say, the minute the captain turned the engine off, that's when she was hooked.
Cool.
And they then bought a Chesapeake 32, a Phil Rhodes design classic sloop, refit it, sailed it down to the Bahamas, just the two of them before they had kids. This would have been in 79, 80, and cruised the Bahamas and then came back. And then they met some families on that trip and said, hey, if and when we ever have kids, we got to do this again with kids. And I was born in 84. My sister, 2 years younger, was born in 86. And then in 93, they made good on that promise. And we went, we had a 36-foot Allied Seabreeze ketch and 2 cats. And they took us out of school for a year, and we cruised down the East Coast, spent the winter in the Bahamas, and then cruised back. And that's I was 9 at the time. My sister was 7. And I like to tell people 2 things. That was it was the right age. That was some of the first memories I had as a human.
Yep.
And I had a very stable childhood, lived in the same house. My dad still lives in the same house I was born in. So that year was the first year that was really out of the ordinary. So it really stood out. But it was also, the first memories I have of sailing. And but just like Axel, I've been sailing since I was in diapers because I didn't have a choice. My mom and dad just it was all Chesapeake Bay sailing, nothing, none of this major long distance stuff. My dad had done a bunch of deliveries back in the 70s and 80s and did some offshore sailing. He was in turn inspired. I feel like we should mention Lynn and Larry Party. You probably heard Larry Party recently, and they were huge inspirations to my parents and to me. That's a cool thing about what I was talking about at the beginning. The history with all this is I'm inspired in reading the same books that my mom and dad have been reading all along. And my mom passed away in 2012. She had brain cancer, and she died at age 62. So I actually have here, I showed you a couple of my tattoos before. I've got my sextant here.
Oh, we lost you. Yep. Okay.
It says "Hold fast to your dreams" here on my wrist. And that was a note that my mom had written to me right before I left on the trip I went to New Zealand, where I met Mia. Okay. So all this stuff is all connected, and it's about, to make a long story short, the reason we have the business we have and the lifestyle we have is that I've always tried to figure out how to make a living out of doing the things I'm most passionate about. And it's ocean sailing, and that's it. And we've luckily, part luck, part circumstance, part really hard work have made it successful over the last. I've been working in sailing for 10 years, but we've had our own business now for the last 5 years. And
that's crazy. I think when you and I finally get out of this cyber world and meet up face to face, we're going to talk for a long time. We're a little bit similar in a lot of ways. You work out what you love doing, and somehow you work out that you can pay the bills. And Lynn, this whole inspiration thing is right, which is the reason. Part of the reason we're doing these events, the GGR and the OGR, and now even the Mini Globe, is because it promotes adventure, and adventure inspires people. And even with Lynn and Larry Party, first time I met them, they were in Sydney when I was screening the premiere of my BOC documentary, and they came to the premiere screening, with all the sponsors and all that sort of stuff. And that really fired them up to get into the video routine. It was back in 91. And that started their video series, because I'd read all the Hiscox and all the, Golden Globe books, and I'd been following Lynn and Larry, Cruising World and all that stuff, and bingo. And it was sad to see he passed on, but what a life they had, what a life he had, and is still doing stuff. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, so you made the commitment to do it. How are you going to do it? What do you? Obviously, the boat's pretty slick. You don't have to do a lot. But what's the
Yeah, we're
boat?
just starting that actually. The boat's going to be in Sweden next winter for a winter period. We're taking the big boat. So obviously everything got screwed up with COVID. We missed the
Yeah.
whole season. Now we pushed our whole 2020 season to next year. So we're going to be in Sweden next winter. Have the boat in a shed inside and that's going to be probably the majority of the work we have to do for OGR. And then we're going back to Svalbard on the big boat in 22, which should have been 21. But anyway,
Yeah.
but we'll run it, as we do with our other trips. So we'll have people. I think the plan is to sail with 12 crew, including myself. So we'll probably have 2 pros on board, me and a mate. Probably a photographer, a friend of mine who's done all these adventures with us, been to Svalbard, been all over. I'll have him on board to document it, and then we'll have 9 crew places, which will be a combination. That's the next challenge, is figure out. We've had a ton of interest. We have probably more than half of the places already full on the boat, but we haven't taken any firm commitments yet because we don't know what we're going to charge, if we're going to have sponsorship, all those details we have to work out. I have a plan in motion now that I'm not sure how many details I want to share, but the idea is I want to make this more than just a business thing for us. Because to me, it's more than that. And I want to, for us to be able to do it, I'm not a wealthy person and we don't have wealthy backers. So if we're going to do it, it has to either be sponsored or we have to sell the bunks, and more likely a combination of both. But my ultimate scenario is if we can find a sponsor and get the thing funded up front, we can still sell the bunks, but the money then would go to I have a couple sort of charity ideas in mind where we can make this really bigger than ourselves and on a human level, not that there's anything wrong with this, but it's kind of cliched these days where everything's about the ocean and the environment, which is awesome. But I have some human charity type stuff in mind based on some people that have sailed with us in the past and some connections we have.
This is insane. You and I are so similar in so many ways. I'll just open up here. I'll open up here. We haven't yet declared our environmental, sort of program for the Ocean Globe Race, nor the GGR, nor the Mini Globe Race, because I'm uncomfortable with trying. If we're going to do something, it needs to be real, not just talk. Because I see a lot of things about going on. Everyone knows about plastic in the ocean, and so on, and some events are going nuts on it. But then, it's got to be genuine. I'm uncomfortable on the whole issue, and I'm starting to think along other lines as well. And I think what we will probably do for our environmental statement and our the way we'll handle that is we'll give the environmental policies back to the entrants and let them choose any environmental program and support whatever they want to do. And as an event, we may go something a little bit left field.
No, I mean, to me, the environmental stuff for what we do, that should be by default. Everybody should be doing that anyway.
Well, we got a kickstart too because we're using recycled boats and we're relatively low impact and all that stuff.
Well, I think that's the default. So we want to try to make it more human based, and I'll tell you about it offline. I think it's a good idea. It's just in the early stages, and if I can make the right connections, I think it's going to work. But anyway, ultimately, you asked how are we going to do it? It's going to be a combination of sponsorship, selling the bunks. I just got to make sure that we get through the race with a business and a boat intact at the other end of it. That's ultimately my goal.
I should also say, sometimes I forget that we're still quite a long way out. We're over 3 years before the start, which is a long way, and we're nearly full already with entrants. But we went quiet from an organisational point of view. Once COVID kicked in, the stories were so horrific and so bad. Forget about the economies, but just the human story was so bad. Jane and I spoke about it. We've made a conscious decision to just not shut everything down. We're still doing things, but just pull our head in a bit, and we're due to start that up again next month. Next month, everything starts to roll again, and the profile will build. And we're very confident there'll be some positive announcements with OGR in the first quarter of next year about ports and the program and a few other things. And what that does, it starts the ball rolling again, and we get stories out again. And I think let's hope, because what we're finding with sponsors now, they're all looking. The sponsors themselves just don't know the future, but what they do know, they've got to do something to kickstart after the worst of the pandemic's gone. So no one knows what the economies are going to do. So sponsors are always a challenge. They're not going to be any easier. It's tough, but I think it'll work out okay. Anyway, who knows? So what's your biggest fear about the race?
Man. Southern Ocean, like not that specifically, but also, you know, doing the race. We've done everything. I've done everything with Mia. She's always been the first mate co-skipper with me on all the trips. So, you know, it's going to be new the next couple of years where I go sailing. And I guess my biggest fear is sailing in the Southern Ocean. But more than that is being out there and not having my biggest support network next to me, which is Mia. You know, she's not going to be on the whole race with me. She'll be on the gnarliest part of it, I hope. But I think that's going to be the hardest part. And, you know, Southern Ocean. You heard the podcast I did with Susie Goodall about her experience in the GGR. That stuff scares me to death. I mean, look at this picture behind me. Like it's scary.
Yeah, I always remember the story about Sayula 65 getting picked up and just dumped. You know, when they popped the window and flooded the boat. Hey. That's a big boat, you know. But anyway, that's life. That's what it's all about.
You know, everybody I've talked to, I interview people that have done way more sailing than I've done for my podcast. I remember in this very office, right where I'm sitting, I interviewed Gunnar Krantz, who had sailed in 4 of the earlier sort of 90s Whitbreads on the Swedish teams. And his description of Southern Ocean sailing and getting dismasted in the Southern Ocean on, I forget what boat he was on, but I mean, if you say you're not scared of that stuff, you're crazy, because you should be scared of it. It's intimidating.
Have you ever been down there before? I know that, like, the Atlantic is all pretty serious stuff, but have you ever been to the Southern Ocean? No, okay.
Never been to the Southern Ocean. Nope.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say is that you know, our style boats, you know, they're more at one with the ocean than some of the flying boats now. You know, like so that's where I'd want to be.
I'm very happy we're doing it on the 59. You know, that assuages my fears a bit.
Yeah.
And having a crew, you know, it's a different. What Susie did is a whole different thing altogether. But
absolutely. I'm going to pull this little number now. We're going to give you some word association and then some questions, and then we'll carry on the discussion, because I think this might go for a bit. So tell me the first thing that comes into your mind when I hit you with these words. Okay, time.
Make the best of it.
Life.
Do what you love.
Money.
Only what you need it for.
Mother.
Biggest inspiration.
Loser.
No such thing.
Impossible.
Also no such thing.
Fear.
Real.
Panic.
Control. You have to control it.
Albatross.
Southern Ocean.
Holidays.
Oh man, holidays don't exist when you have a lifestyle like I have. You don't need them.
Swimming.
Oh, every day.
Cape Horn.
The pinnacle, the Mount Everest of sailing.
Okay, that's cool. All right, you're really swimming every day.
Well, if I can. We live on a farm in the middle of nowhere, so there's nowhere nearby to swim. But I've been into the Wim Hof method. I don't know if you're familiar with that breathing technique and cold exposure. So I built a little. I have an old wooden barrel that I fill with ice water, and I take an ice bath, not every day, but as often as I can at the farm. And then when we're on the boat, we swim every day for sure, just to jump in.
Okay. You're confirmed crazy. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to give you some questions. You got to pick the question. Pick a number between 1 and 10.
7.
What do you know a lot about?
What do I know a lot about? The non-obvious answer: golf.
Golf. Holy dooly!
Yeah, golf was my first career. I'm a 3 handicap.
Really?
Yeah, I joined a club here in Nantucket now that we're home for a whole summer. So I play. I played, I think, 20 times already this summer.
Okay, you can have a golf tour around the world, each of the stopovers.
Yeah.
Pick a number 10 to 20.
11.
11. What was the last time you cried and why?
Oh, very recently. Probably a week and a half ago, and there's just been a lot of emotion over having a newborn son, and my family hasn't met him yet, and my mom died and won't ever get to meet him, and I'm an emotional guy, so I cry often. But most recently, it was about Axel and my mom, and just all this family stuff.
Cool. Okay, 20 to 30. Sorry.
25.
25. Do you sing in the shower?
Not in the shower, but I sing to Axel now. I find myself. I don't sing,
What's
but
his?
I bounce him on my knee and sing little horsey songs to him, and he seems to like that. So
Okay,
that's
well,
what I do.
you'll have fun sailing around the world with Axel. That'll be great.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, 30 to 40.
33.
33. Did your parents do a good job of raising you?
Yes, and I have to be specific here because two very important, like fundamental philosophies that I learned from my parents, which are different but very compatible. My mom always said, "Do what you love, and the money will follow." And she was the philosopher in the family. And my
Yeah.
dad, who is very practical and also an entrepreneur, as is my grandfather, he always said, "Do whatever you want to do, but whatever that is, be the best at it, and you will always be successful." So
Yeah.
those two things together, find your passion and be really, really good at it. That's a powerful combination. And I've lived by those two mantras ever since. And those are two things my parents drilled into us growing up that my sister has followed as well. She's a teacher, and I she's followed that in the same vein. So
That's
they
crazy.
raised us
My
very,
parents
very
didn't
well.
do that, but they're two of my key elements as well. We got a lot to talk about later. It's insane. Okay, 40 to 47.
47.
47. What's the most courageous thing you've ever done?
Most courageous thing. Oh man.
Now, for me, I'd say it's having a baby, but that's another story.
Yeah, no, you know what? I'm gonna say that I don't know if it was courage or just because I had to. That we'll keep it in the family vein. I had this conversation with my dad because my mom died of brain cancer, and it wasn't a quick death. She
Yeah.
was sick for 2.5 years, really, really sick for 6 months. She was in hospice in our living room at the house my dad lived in,
Wow.
and my dad and I and Mia was there. We're taking care of her, and I'm not taking any credit for that. It was all my dad, but my dad and I talked about when I was in the hospital with Axel. He was born premature and had meningitis. Got meningitis a week after he was born and had two
Wow.
brain surgeries. And I don't want to say it was courageous for me, but it was the hardest thing I ever did. We lived in the hospital with him for 8 weeks, and it was just a
Whoa.
roller coaster up and down. I mean, it was the scariest thing, and I guess it was courageous because it was just Mia and I. It was weirdly similar to a long ocean passage because we had,
Yeah.
this it's a COVID. We were in isolation. We had our own little room. Axel was there. It was gnarly, and it was life changing for sure. I don't know if that counts as courageous, but it was a
Yeah,
hell of a.
that counts as courageous. There's one thing about people that are heavily into adventure. You have a very real sense of your own mortality and the importance of living every day. So, wow, you're
Yeah,
getting a handful of that from many directions at the moment.
we
But
sure
anyway,
are. Yeah, it was
uh,
yeah, it was gnarly, but he's
okay,
doing
well,
good now.
yeah, yeah, cool. Well, let's hope he gets around Cape Horn, eh?
Yeah,
We'll have to make a special subsection within the notice of race or something, but we can do
yeah.
anything. Okay, this is the loony question now. You got to pick a letter between A and N.
F.
F. If you're a tree, what kind of a tree would you be and why?
I would be a big oak tree because they are strong and sturdy and they live a long time.
Okay.
And I have a row of big oak trees right outside my window here, so that's what I'm looking at right now.
So tell me about your situation there now, the house, and is it a farm or like a big property
Yeah,
or
yeah. So
like
this
by
is
a
really
big town
cool.
or a big city or what?
No, so the cool thing about Sweden is there's not that many people here, and the towns that are here it's very separate. You're in the city, then you're in the countryside.
Yeah.
So we live on a 100-acre farm about 15 minutes from the nearest small town, but I can be from door to door at Central Station in Stockholm. If I time it right with the train, I can be there in an hour from walking out
Wow,
my front door. 15
that's
minutes to the
cool.
train station, 40 minutes on the train, and I'm in Central Stockholm. But we
Yeah.
live, the nearest neighbor is the horse farm next door, and their house is probably 1.5 kilometers away. But the neat thing about the farm is this farm has been in, this whole history idea. I take this beyond just sailing; it's personal too. So
Yeah.
this house we live in now was the house that Mia's dad grew up in,
Holy
and
dooly.
has been in her family for over 100 years.
Yeah.
So her parents moved away just 3 kilometers across the big road into a little village. There's like 12 houses in the forest. They moved away when Mia was a kid, and her dad kept the house and the property because he farmed the land.
Yeah.
And they rented out the house. And then when Mia and I were getting ready to move back to Sweden, this was like 5 years ago, the house was vacant because the long-term renters had moved out, and her dad had stopped farming it and was renting the land, and they weren't sure what to do with it. Mia has 4 siblings, and none of the kids seemed to want it. And we were out there and traveling, and I said to Mia, like, let's just move in there. It's a place to live until we figure out what we want to do. And once we moved in here, we're like, this is great. Let's see if we can keep this in the family. So we effectively bought out her sisters and brothers because Mia's dad's was an only child. So he owned the land and the farm and the house. So we bought out her brothers and sisters, and now we live in the house. When we're off sailing, we rent the house out on short term on Airbnb. And then there's 80 acres of arable farmland, and we rent that out to another neighbor it's cool. It's another young couple who bought their farm from their parents, and they're like our age. So they rent the land from us, and yeah, it's a nice little.
That's crazy. It's starting to sound like the Italian family thing, you know, like it's is that close family connection big in Sweden, like, or is it just you guys?
I think it's both. I mean, the thing with us is given our lifestyle and that we're traveling a lot on the boats, and that we wanted to have a kid with Axel, is we felt that we wanted to live either near my family or near Mia's family. We're both very family oriented, and we thought it would be stupid to live in some third place where just to see family we'd have to travel. When we're not on the boats, we like to just sit in one place and not travel so much. So so Sweden won out because we both like it here. And then when we're going back to the U.S., we'll be back in the U.S. for like 8 to 10 weeks starting in September to see my family, who hasn't even met Axel yet because of COVID. But
cool.
So we like being near family when we're home, and it just makes it more fun and easier.
So okay, just getting back into the OGR, what to you is a success? Like, what's if you came out of this and said, wow, that was cool, what's your definition of success for the OGR?
Well, we touched on this a little bit last time when I came in to talk with I think it was Alan. I'm a really competitive person at heart, but I'm not competitive when it comes to sailing, really.
Yeah.
We've done a bunch of races on East Bjorn. That picture you just put up is from the Carib 600, which we've done 3 times. So
yeah, that's in the 48. That's the 48 for those that are looking.
Yeah. The racing aspect of it is secondary to the adventure. But once we're out there, we're going to try our hardest to be competitive. And but ultimately, a success for us is really about not me. It's about the people that are going to come along on the trip and giving them an experience of a lifetime. And I get to kind of be a part of that. Yeah, there's the 59. I get to be a part of that, and kind of that's the neatest thing about these passages that we do is we get people on board that have never been to sea before. You get to experience that. What it's like to go to sea for the first time over and over and over again. You see it with fresh eyes every time, and that's my most favorite thing about it. But from the racing terms, I've got a bunch of friends that have skippered clipper yachts in the clipper around the world, and I think the key to success from a racing and competitive standpoint on these really long races, it's really about keeping the boat together. So ironically, my thoughts and philosophy on seamanship and sailing conservatively and managing the sails and the rig and all that stuff is actually a good thing when you look at these long distance races, because you can't crash out. Then you're done. You got to get to the finish.
You got to get around. Yeah.
I've always had that philosophy. So I think if we stick to that, we'll be successful ultimately, but we may actually do well in the competition because that's what you need to do to do well.
Yeah, exactly.
But
I love
not the adventure.
I love dropping in shots like this. This is not an Amoka 60.
No, that's real well. We've done a little bit to the interior since then, just cleaned it up a bit, new cushions and stuff. But yeah, that's the same layout. It's not one thing we need to think though. That picture, the biggest problem with the 59 is that salon is huge.
Yeah.
So we need to put in like where that little couch is by the table, we're thinking about putting in like a vertical support pole as something to grab onto, because there's not it's a lot of open space down there when you're moving around at sea. So we need to, that's one of the OGR things we're going to do, is somehow put in more handholds and make that space not so big when you're at sea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, too true. So what about so just a couple of simple questions. You're going to use the original mast, or you're going to try for a new rig, or
I think we're gonna use the original mast. Those Nodder masts, man, they don't make them like that. It's a
yeah,
tall rig
absolutely.
version. It's a gorgeous mast.
That,
We're gonna
that's the reason for asking the question, because there's
yeah,
those boats, their scantlings are everywhere, is built for ocean, and
yeah.
it's easy to rebuild. So yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of will do that.
The thing is, though, we've had some issues already. Not our issues. That this always happens when you buy an old boat. You're not going to find out the major issues until you start sailing it hard, and that's what we do. So one issue we've had with the rig is the gooseneck was loose, and when we took it apart in Tortola last year after the trip south from the Chesapeake, it had obviously been a long-term problem, because when we took it off the mast, you could see where they had removed it before, re-drilled and reattached it. So somebody in the past had done a really poor job of, instead of fixing it properly, let's just move it 2 inches down. Now there's like
Yeah,
a machine gun underneath that stainless gooseneck. It's like
yeah,
Swiss cheese because there's so many damn holes in there. So we got to figure that out and make that better. And that's going to be for the Sweden project. We put it back together. It's good for now, but that kind of stuff. That boom is so damn heavy because it's an
oh
aluminum
yeah,
boom.
yeah.
It really puts a lot of stress on that gooseneck. So if we did anything at all, it may be to replace the boom with a lighter, carbon boom or something. But it's all original Nodder spars, and they're so nice and pretty and heavy and well built. So I'd like to keep them.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Actually, we've got a few people here, and some I forgot to mention. If you want to ask a question, you can do. There's some of your friends up here, Andy. Alan
Yeah, that's
McMillan
some of
Orr
my
reckon
college friends on there too. Really cool.
Alan McMillan Orr is there, and he reckons you're mad. Having both spoken to him the other time, we both know he is mad, right? And Pamela Wall is into the family thing. Yeah, I really, I'm starting to get excited about the prospect of Axel doing the voyage with you now.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it would be a hell of a story, wouldn't it?
absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Like you
it'll
say,
be a challenge, because people say, as an organizer, we face a lot of challenges. Trying to get things like this up and trying to work out the legal aspects. I can imagine what people think. What, you're going to let a 3-year-old baby into your race? Are you mad? And I'll just look at him and say, "Yep, it's cool. Hey, this is a family boat."
that's the thing. I mean, it would be a dream to he's not gonna. He probably won't remember it, but if we could tell him when he gets older, hey, you sailed around, you're a Cape Horner and you're only 3.5, and
Yeah.
um,
Well,
one day
that's
he'll
funny.
do it.
I try to think back when you're a little kid. What's your earliest memory? And I got
Yeah,
mine back as far as 4 years old. I saw a picture when I was dressed up as a little humpy at kindergarten, and I remember sticking the pipe in my mouth and all this sort of stuff. And I was 4.
yeah,
That's as far
yeah,
back as I've got a confirmed memory. But anyway,
yeah,
that'd be cool. And risk mitigation is all about the race. The OGR
yeah,
is all about risk mitigation, and we've had some
yeah.
handicapped people and a few others saying, "Oh, would you let me in?" And I say, it doesn't worry me, that are sick. I say, look, illness just might be a handicap, and I'm wide open on a lot of suggestions. If we can minimise the risk, so I'd be up for that. So I think it'd
Well,
be
Don,
cool.
hold that thought, because that's similar to what my idea or our sort of charity idea is along those lines.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
tell you.
yeah, that's cool. So, what's your biggest challenge now to get to the start? Like, what do you see as your number one biggest challenge? Because getting the start
Um,
is always the biggest issue.
Well, I mean, the way we manage the business side of things, it's two challenges, right? We got to get through COVID first, and we got to get sailing again, because we need people sailing with us. I've got a long list of people that we're supposed to sail with us this year that are waiting to do trips, and demand is there. I mean, we're going to sail the boats back to the Caribbean in November, and I sent a newsletter out less than a week ago, and we have 10 spots between both boats, and we've gotten 14 applications already.
Yeah,
So we got to get the boats sailing again, and by getting them sailing again, we'll be able to add to our list on Ice Bear what we're going to refit. Ice Bear's in refit right now. The 59's in Annapolis. She's getting watertight bulkheads installed for MCA coating,
yeah,
which is going to make her a better boat for OGR. They're doing watertight doors into the forepeak and into the aft cabin. So that's going to be
yeah,
a big one off the list. And then the refit next year. But we got to keep, our biggest challenge is putting the puzzle together,
yeah,
because we got to keep the boats sailing until OGR, and
yeah,
we can't afford to have any delays. COVID's out of our hands, but the way we run our schedules, if we get dismasted in the middle of a season, well, that domino affects the rest of my season and the season after, because everything happens from a new location.
yeah,
So that kind of is where that philosophy of seamanship and sailing conservatively and keeping the boat in one piece that's like fundamental to our success of our business.
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest challenge is, we got to get through next season's crossing the Atlantic. Season after that is taking Ice Bear up back to Svalbard. Well, first time for the 59, but second time for us. And then right after Svalbard is getting a program together. And this is a bit compressed now, but we want to put together a season prior to the OGR start where we can actually do some long distance races, a Transat, do some OGR prep passages with the crew that are going to actually be on the OGR.
Yeah.
And really, I would say the biggest of all challenges is the timing of all this, because it has to fit together. But if we can make the calendar work, then I'm confident that we have a really good plan going forward.
Yeah, 3.5 years can be a very small amount of time, and you're right about the number of people. The number of potential crew that are on the OGR Interested Entrants Facebook page is incredible, and the number of emails we get asking us how do they get on board boats. I say, look, as an organizer, we don't do it. It's up to you to be available, make yourself valuable to a skipper, to get on board. And I think most people know that they've got to support the boat they're on financially. There's a lot of people waiting to find boats. Anyway, so and I should say thanks for all the help you're giving to us on the OGR, because we've discussed many aspects of the notice of race as it was developing, and we changed quite a few things. But accepting that, where we're at the moment, if there was one thing you could change about the OGR, what would it be?
Having not looked at the notice of race in a while, but from the versions I've seen, the early versions, if there was some way, I would like some way to manage weather forecasting that's a little bit more than it was on the GGR. That was, having talked to Susie, that was probably her biggest wish from the GGR, was having a different way of getting weather forecasting. So I think that's probably my biggest wish, is some plan for that.
Yeah, we're looking at that. I mean, you got weather facts and a few other bits and pieces, but we're discussing that as well. We're still on the pre-notice of race, but the notice of race will be out shortly.
Right.
So there's a few good things happening in the background, but anyway, that's cool. Okay,
I think it's, from our conversation so far, I think overall, I hope that the rules are made from a practical sense while also adhering to the, like the picture behind me, the old school philosophy behind it. I think you can combine those two things. And I've been happy with the conversations you and I have had already, because I think some of the practical stuff, like the Dyneema running backstays, for example, that doesn't change the philosophy of the race, and it's safer from a standpoint. I mentioned to you, what's his name? ATN broke his arm on a wire spinnaker sheet back in the day. Well, that wouldn't happen if it was a Dyneema sheet, because it doesn't hold the energy like it does. So practical stuff like that, I think, I don't want to have chart plotters and tracking and all that stuff. That's a different story, because that changes the philosophy behind it. I'm all in on the celestial stuff, but practical rules, stuff like that, I think is cool.
Yeah. So what flag are you going to sail under?
Well, the boat's British flagged for commercial reasons, but we're ideas. We're a joint Swedish-American entry. So, what actual flags on the back of the boat, I guess, remains to be seen.
You're going to have to put one on the mainsail. That's going to be a bit tricky. You're going to have Swedish one side, American on the other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so all right. Well, I think anything you want to get across in particular, something that I'm not asking you, something you want to talk about, let people know.
No, I mean, I guess just if I can plug the podcast, you were just on the last episode, which came out yesterday.
You put it up already.
Yeah, I forgot. Well, I was on the boat, so I didn't get a chance to email you.
Yeah.
But I'll send you all the stuff how to share it. But yeah, you're the last episode of this season. We take a break now, and we'll come back again probably September, October with new episodes. But that's been the foundation of the whole business. I started that podcast in 2013 as an excuse to talk to the people that inspired me, and we've done over 300 episodes since then. And I've had everybody on. Episode number 2, speaking of Lynn and Larry, was Lynn and Larry Party.
Yeah.
We've been on Skip Novak, Magnus Olsson. I'm trying to think of Whitbread guys. ATN has been on several times. I mean, Robin Knox Johnson's been on. Susie's been on a bunch of times. I mean, my list of
it's pretty epic. It's pretty epic. Yeah.
Like to sit down and have a conversation with. I'm through almost all of those people. And last but not least, inspirational wise, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for John Kretschmer. He does trips like we do, and John sailed. He's famous for sailing a Contessa 32 the wrong way around Cape Horn from New York to San Francisco. Wrote a bunch of books, and he does sail training voyages on a Kaufman 47. And he's been a mentor to me and an inspiration. And he's probably the biggest reason where I saw what he did as a career, and I said I could do that too. And thankfully, he's been nice enough to actually help me along that path. So if you're not familiar with John Kretschmer, look up his books. They're awesome, and go sailing with him if you get a chance, because he's the reason we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's cool. I should say, anyone that's watching, your podcasts are really cool. You've got a natural style, and you can pull things out of people, because the one you did with Susie, after because Susie, that was the first time she's ever opened up, and I was, myself and many other people have commented, that was amazing. I mean, she really opened up, and I think, there's some. I've listened to a few of your things in the back issues, so a bit cool.
Yeah,
we'll share that.
There's a back catalog. It's all free. It's on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. But there's a lot to get through, and they've been really inspiring to me, and I've learned a lot too. I mean, that's the secret, right? Is I want to learn about 7 months in sailing, so I'll invite Gunnar Frantz over to my office and have him sit down and talk to me for 2 hours about what it's like to sail on the Whitbread. I mean, that's it's fantastic. It's great. It's how I learn about seamanship.
It's kind of interesting because, we get all the emails and all the contacts and stuff like that. There are quite a few of the old Whitbread guys that are really watching the OGR very closely. And there's quite a few that are entering, like there's putting teams together and stuff. The Nordic countries are very strong in OGR at the moment. It's quite amazing. So anyway, and there's a lot of people talking. And just remember, I think we've only done 3 press releases. There's still half the world doesn't know about the OGR yet. And, when we start announcing courses and things like that, I mean, there's going to be, quite a bit of interest going on. I'm quite certain you're going to get a sponsor. You've got all the elements, so you'll get the backing, and I think we'll be having a bit of fun together for quite some time.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I have to think about, if we get a sponsor, then we've got other obligations as well. So my goal is to be able to put a plan together such that we don't need a sponsor.
Yeah.
I don't want to be beholden to that. I want to do it my way. And if we can find a sponsor that will buy into that vision and it benefits everybody, then that's the plan. But the only reason we'd have, by my plan now, the reason to have a sponsor is so that the money that we'd otherwise take in the business for selling the bunks can go to a cause bigger than us, that we can actually make this a thing, not about, it's not what it's about. I want to be able to do that, but I want to have the business plan in place so that as a fallback, we can put it together and make it work, and everybody wins. So we'll see how it plays out. But that's my next work job now, is to start working on that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll be speaking again. It's always good to have a quick chat, find out about the game plan and the family. Just to confer once again, who's going to be skipper, you or Mia?
No, I'll be skipper. She'll be co-skipper on at least the Cape Horn leg. Hopefully more. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, sounds cool. All right, well, that's great, Andy. Thanks for that, and we'll keep in touch. I'll make sure we put the link up to your podcast. In fact, they can get to you through the OGR website, because we've got an entrance section there, which then talks about the historic entrance as well as the current entrance now. So, and I'm pretty sure there's a link to your site there, and you're all over it on the website where it says check out a Nauta Swan 48 boats or whatever. You're there, and it's 59 North. So there's 59north.com.
59-north.com. There's a hyphen in
there. Don't forget the dash.
I got to say, too, Don, to Mia's credit, we've been equal partners in this sailing and the business all along. So she was supposed to be sitting here with me, but she had to take Axel to the doctor. But anyway, she, I've been sailing my whole life. She learned how to sail with me in 2006. But since then, she's got as many miles as me offshore and has one more Atlantic crossing than me, because we had an opportunity to deliver a boat across the Atlantic, and only one of us could go because of obligations we had at home. And she's like, I'm going. You sailed longer than me. I don't want you to have that on your resume. So she's got 5 Atlantic crossings to my 4. So to give her credit where it's due. This is not the Andy show. It's the Andy and Mia show for sure.
Yeah, I agree. That was the original intention, to have Mia there as well. But we understand that. And it's funny, when we put together the concept of the race and how it's happening, Sure, there's a lot of amateurs involved. There's some, very experienced people involved, and so on. But the idea of families involved, that goes right back to the very first one in '73.
Yep.
There's always this vision of the boats crossing the line, and the family out there with the washing on the rails. As they've already crossed the start line, and so it's really, we've got a lot of colour with all the entrants. The backstories are quite dynamic and all different types and so on. So I just want to make sure that we get Alex. We get Alex there somehow, That'd be kind of cool. That'd be a good fun story. So, so hit me up on that anytime. We'll give him some dispensations or something. And he won't have to do a survival course. All right. All right. Thanks, Andy. That's pretty cool, and appreciate the time. We'll do it again, in another 6 months or something.
Sounds great, Don. Can't wait to meet you.
Thanks for that. See you later. Okay, so that's it. Always fun. Andy's a very colourful character. And he runs a great program, great boats. And you can actually join him on the sailing program if you can find a slot, by the sound of it. Very popular. So we'll be doing this again with the other Alex on September the 2nd. And Axel, sorry, what did I say? Oh, jeepers, I'm hopeless. Axel, I keep thinking Axel and Alex, but anyway, on September the 2nd. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot, and see you later. Bye.